Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the space. So, thank you for joining me with your coffee in hand and or your breakfast. It's a pleasure to be here. Although I would much rather be in front of you live, this will do just fine in the present circumstances. Basically, stay safe, stay healthy, and take care of your loved ones. In the meantime, um, if ever you wish to ask me some specific questions as I'm going through the presentation, please do use the Slack channel that's been provided to do so. Um, since this is pre-recorded, I'll be able to answer these questions live as we go. All right, so growth and ambition in a male-dominated industry. What we'll be talking about today, first and foremost, I'll be introducing myself just to give you a bit of a heads up on who I am and what I've done. I'll also be presenting to you some data and some facts around the tech sector and the gender gap that has been quite obviously observed. And we will also be discussing the reasons the explanations that may have led to this great disparity within the tech sector in regards to male employees versus female employees. I will then be diving into the concept of ambition and why ambition across sectors, across industries, is still a dirty word. We'll talk a bit about it. And of course, we'll talk about ways and means and tips and tricks on what you can do to maneuver your growth and your ambition in the tech sector or any male-dominated industries. So let's start with me introducing myself. My name is Caroline Cyr. I'm from Montreal. I'm the CEO and founder of a consulting firm that specializes in tech talent attraction and retention. As you all know, we are in a war for talent right now in North America and probably across the world. And so I help employers design and deploy strategies to attract the people that are aligned to their values, their culture, and well, who they are. And I also do, that's my second niche, I also do executive coaching. More precisely, I accompany leaders in their transformation towards the digital era, because the industrial age doesn't necessitate the same type of competencies as the digital age requires. So yeah, I do executive coaching. I've been in the HR field, in the people field for more than 20 years, and more recently as a senior executive in the financial services sector and the high-tech sector. My background in university is industrial organizational psychology. So that's my own pedigree. In a nutshell, that's who I am. As a side note, don't hesitate to reach out to me via LinkedIn. It will be my pleasure to connect with you following the conference. All right, so let's dive into the unnerving data and indisputable facts around the gender disparity in regards to the tech sector. So a few data points. So 20% of all jobs in tech are held by women. Now, this is a very low number because if you consider the fact that the women workforce is approximately 47% in North America right now, it's a very low number. Plus, these are all jobs in technology, meaning that the support groups, so marketing, HR, communication, finance, and operations, which are mainly constituted of women, are also part of this number. So basically, this means that the hardcore, pure tech jobs are even significantly lower, or that percentage is significantly lower for the pure tech jobs. So that's quite an unnerving fact and data. Next up, so very surprisingly, or not, 87% of position of power in the high tech and the construction industries are held by men. 30% 13% are held by women only. Now, well, you'll ask me, well, why are we including construction and, with high tech? Well, when JP Morgan did their survey last year, um, these two industries came up almost equally in regards to their percentage for men holding the positions of power in their industry. So basically, the roles that enable a company to move forward, the strategy, the key pivotal decisions required to be done to ensure profitability were held by men. 87 were held by men. Now, this was the biggest gap across all industries, men versus women, for these two sectors. So quite interesting. As a side note, I'll come back 2 seconds. As a side note, this means that VPs and C-level, so chief operating officer, chief executive officer, any chief officer, are mainly men across tech employers. So VPs and senior execs basically are mainly men. All right, so 50% of women leave their job in STEM fields after 12 years. Now, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, leave after 12 years. So this is around 35, 37. By popular belief, people think that they leave to have children, to take care of children, to go back home. Well, the data says completely otherwise. The reason why women leave is that at that point in their career, they realize that two things. First off, there's no support for them. Basically, management is not supporting their careers, not supporting their progression. They feel relatively isolated in regards to the employer versus their careers. And second, they feel as though they don't have enough development opportunities or career opportunities within that field. Either because they're being overlooked, they're not being considered, they're not being judged or evaluated fairly compared to men. So because of these two very key data points, because of lack of support and lack of career opportunities, women will have a tendency to leave around that age, and not because of motherhood responsibilities. It's actually interesting to note that both women with children and women without children actually have the same degree of ambition when they start off in the workplace. So within 2 years, this engagement has a greater gap between men and women. Basically, when a woman comes in, she has the exact same level of ambition and of hopes for her career as a man does. But within 2 years, that there's a significant gap between the engagement level and the hopes level of them growing a career versus men. So it starts within the 2 years after their first introduction into the workplace. Very interesting. Almost 50% of women in tech says their company is not prioritizing diversity. Basically, half of the women feel in the tech industry that their employers are not putting any efforts, any means, any resources in ensuring that there is a greater female population within their ranks. Although, by the same token, you can say that very recently, there has been some new roles emerging within industries, as in Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, that help put into light that particular fact. But women in the ranks feel that employers are not putting enough realistic efforts or tangible efforts into ensuring that more women join the tribe. Interesting. Also, I wanted to present to you some data on the GAFAM group. So basically big tech giants, Amazon, Facebook, Apple, Microsoft, and Google. In a nutshell, not even half of their population is female, are women. In that industry, the total work in those employers, the total workforce of women is less than half. Leadership roles are a third, or approximately a third of their total leadership roles. And when we say leadership roles, we mean any position that involves leading people from all levels. So leads, managers, directors, VPs, and even CEOs. So only a quarter, close to a quarter of leadership roles are held by women. And even worse, pure tech roles are only held at about 20% for all of these employers. Because you'd think that these big, fantastic tech giants would put a lot of effort in trying to bridge the gap, because of course, they're most probably receiving as many CVs from women as from men. But quite apparently, when it comes to hiring and to retaining, there's not much effort put into, or not much effort, that's me putting a judgment here, but there's maybe not sufficient effort being put into attracting and retaining women in the tech sector. So you probably have a very interesting question in this regards. Why is this? Why do we have that much of a disparity between the women population versus the women employees versus the men employees in the tech sector? Well, I actually call these explanations the walls, because these explanations also provide insights on the challenges that are being experienced by women in the tech industry. And more importantly, well, actually, let's stick to the tech industry for now. And so, for the answer to the question why, what's very peculiar in answering that question is that when you take a look at the situation in an objective manner, there's no differentiation required in physical abilities for tech jobs, right? So we don't need to maneuver big, heavy objects. It's not a very physical type work. Actually, it's not a physical type work, so there's no differentiation required in physical abilities. All you need to do is use your hands and sit, basically. There's also no differentiation required in cognitive abilities. A brain is a brain is a brain. All of our brains work differently and are wired relatively differently, but the cognitive abilities between or compared male and female are actually the same. The way that there's no differentiation required in cognitive abilities. And there's also no differentiation required in personality profiles. As long as you fit with the people, with the team, with the culture, then we're good to go. May you be male, female, or any other gender association, there's no differentiation whatsoever. So basically, what we're saying is that, well, there is no friggin' differentiation required whatsoever. So this means that there's no rational, justifiable explanation for the fact that there's such a major gap in the employee population between men and women. But various research have provided various arguments or hypotheses in regards to the explanation for such a gap between men and women in the tech sector. You always need to take a look at who the author is. Is there an underlying compelling message that they want to provide to the audience? What message do they want to pass through? Well, what I did is I researched many of those documents. And these are also based on experience, these are the factors that came out. Again, both on my experience and based on the research. So young girls are being reinforced by the environment on gender-based career and attributes. This is not done in a malevolent fashion. This is not done in an evil way by parents or the environments or family. So young girls from 0 to 10 are being influenced by what they see on TV, by the media, by the way that they're being reinforced in the way that they behave and the choices that they make when it comes to doing certain activities. And unfortunately, unconsciously, since our generation has evolved with a certain gender bias, well, unconsciously, we also have a certain propensity to push that bias down. Um, as an example, just quick example, one of my relative has a daughter. So my relative, she's a fantastic senior account executive. She's ambitious, she's driven. Um, she's an awesome, awesome lady. Her daughter, well, basically, she her daughter has been a princess all of her childhood. So basically, she's the most beautiful person ever. She's the most adorable person. She's the most gentle person ever. She, buys her all sorts of costumes. She plays house. She's so all of these reinforced behaviors are conducive to the outcome, which is actually gearing women towards specific gender-based careers and social attributes. Um, Tech sector has mainly been defined by male attributes, unfortunately. But this is changing slowly but surely. The conscientiousness of this is emerging. So we're making progress on this one. There's also a shortage of female mentors and role models within the tech sector for women. So as we were seeing before, since 87% of men hold uh, senior executive positions or decisional roles, well, means VPs and Cs are mainly men across employers in the tech sector. So it's very hard for women to find female mentors and roles models to share the experience that they may have and to get support. Um, Plus the actual gender disparity in terms of population. So there's this massive amount of men in a certain sector, and women may not necessarily be called to joining such a big tribe of men. Um, it has been known that gender is most easily interrelatable with same gender. So basically, women have an easier time interacting with women, and men have an easier time interacting with other men. This being said, there is a general bell curve, which is quite normal, but um, most of us have an easier time dealing with our own gender. So this does not help the actual tech sector situation. Academia. So basically, most of the professors in the STEM industry, in the STEM fields, actually are males. Because traditionally, STEM was all about males, right? Women have started slowly, very slowly integrating the STEM field, but it's mainly been done by men. And so the professors, the more senior experienced people in school, the professors, are actually mostly men in the STEM fields. And so when it comes to coaching, mentoring, when it comes to referring star candidates to employers or to PhDs or to masters, well, unfortunately, academia very subtly is promoting the fact that mainly men are going to be choosing the tech sector down the line. So that is another reason why. The infamous implicit bias towards women. So implicit bias is unconscious bias. It's bias that you're not aware that you're actually owning. For example, yeah, we know women in math, right? They're not linked. Women are not good in math. Women are not good in code. Women would not get along with a bunch of men. Women are not suited for those types of environments. So all of these unconscious biases impact promotions, impact recruitment. When male managers recruit candidates, they have a tendency to lean or to perceive that male candidates are more competent and more proficient, although they both have the same experience and background. So it's just a gender bias. It's an implicit, unconscious gender bias that affect the population of employees within the tech sector. There's, as I was saying before, there's also a perceived reduced probability of career development opportunities. So basically, women feel as though at some point in time in their career in the tech sector, they'll be plateaued. They won't be able to breach that glass ceiling that we always talk about. And depending on the team, depending on what field of tech we're talking about, that plateau can come earlier on than not. So there's a perceived probability of career development reduced opportunities. And last but not least, the existing compensation gap. So 11.8% of a gap between male and female for the same role with the same age, same background, same experience. There's a close to a 12% compensation gap in that regards. When women start realizing this, that they're not being paid or recognized monetarily for the same value add, this is a big, big crack in the whole structure. So this is not compelling. It doesn't make women want to advance more, because unfortunately, the gap increases as women go up in the ranks. So as they get to the senior executive levels, that can go up to a 20% gap, which is significant. But this is not all tech employers. It's the industry as a whole. Now, based on all of the data that we've just seen, based on the explanation that we've just gone through, I want to tackle the ambition aspect of women in a male-dominated industry. So, ambition per se, yes, is still perceived as a very dirty word. Let me explain. So, the word ambition per se, from the Oxford Dictionary, means a desire and determination to achieve success. Quite clear, quite direct. I mean, there's no misunderstanding there, except for the fact that when it comes to ambitious men versus ambitious women, there's a very different understanding of what they are. And this differentiation comes from both men and women. We both genders have a tendency to disassociate the meaning of ambition for men versus women. Let me go into more details. So there is a double bind bias. That is, it's a perception bias, but it's a double bind bias. Basically, for the same type of behaviors, women will be qualified differently than from men. This comes from the fact that socially and culturally, women are perceived as nurturers, caregivers, caretakers, gentle, docile. This is still the case today. We have not emanated from this completely yet. Although there's been some progress, we're not there yet. Socially and culturally, it is still anticipated that women will take care of others and be gentle. And so this means that when a woman is assertive, is directive, and takes the reins, this is contradictory to what is expected. And so women are not prone or adept to taking on leadership positions. So basically it's a no-win for them. They cannot be ambitious, or they cannot hold a position of power if they are directive, assertive, as men could be. They need to be gentle and caring and nurturing, which in a leadership position you cannot always be. You need to become more directive and assertive in some instances. But just think of examples in your own reality. Don't think about superstars. Don't think about the Oprah Winfreys of this world and the J-Los of this world and the likes. Think about your own corner of the world, basically in your workplace. So think about women that have crossed your path in the workplace, the ones that have achieved great, that you've seen evolve in your career. People that came from your team, that took on a lead position, that took on a producer position, an executive producer position, and qualify them. Most of you will have some negative perception of these women. So a woman that is assertive, directive, that is driven, that has ambition, and from which these behaviors emanate, that raises her tone of voice, will actually be shown under a very negative light. So words like bossy, pushy, self-serving, egotistical, ruthless, aggressive, bitchy, manipulative, all of these words, all of these qualificatives will be attached to a woman that emits the same behaviors as men in the same type of leadership position. So for men, when emitting these behaviors of assertiveness, of directiveness, of leadership, basically, well, they're drivers, they're bold, they know what they want, they're powerful, they're affirmative. So these qualificatives are stick to men, which actually is kind of like oil in the machine. It enables their flow towards their career progress much easier than for women that have to counteract every step of the way that negative perception. At some point, some women just don't care anymore of the perception that other people may have, as long as they deliver. But this is still a very intense emotional work that they need to do, and a weight that they need to hold by the same token. And so, in regards to ambition and to growth, how do we overcome these challenges impeding our ambition and our growth in a male-dominated industry? More specifically, in the tech sector, how do we do it? How do we go about maneuvering our growth and ambition? Let me give you some hints. In a nutshell, I am woman, hear me roar. Because there's been much progress towards the Me2 movement, women stepping up to the plate and requesting that they be heard, that they be recognized, ensuring that they did have a seat at the table. So rules and regulations have now come on boards. In some entities, there are some quotas to actually push women towards managerial roles per se, which is actually fantastic. Now, some people may think that it's a bad thing. Some people may think that it's a good thing, but it's actually conducive to having a different perception of women in the workplace. So the Hear Me Roar is all about the fact that it's about you. You are the main key of all of these locks, okay? So you are the one that needs to drive your ambition, to nurture your growth, to make sure that your environment is also receptive to it. You have choices and you have means and you have energy to do this, should you choose to do so. Now, if you don't want to grow, if you're not ambitious, that's also very, very good. Your priorities may be elsewhere, which is fantastic, and kudos to you for being clear on that. But for those of you who do want to grow and are ambitious, especially within the tech sector, you need to take the reins, okay? So how do we do this? First and foremost, be clear on what your end goal will be. Know what your target is. Is it a different level? Is it a managerial position? Is it a different technology? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to achieve? So you need to be clear on your end goal, whatever that end goal may be. Second, also very important, you need to be clear on your development objectives. So once you know what you want to achieve, once you know what goal you want to head towards to, it is much easier to know what steps you need to take in order to develop yourself. But to do so, you need to speak up. Okay, so most women think, and again, research, background, and me and my experience, over 20 years of experience doing some coaching in regards to career development, women have a tendency not to demonstrate their value. They have a bit of a reserve when it comes to putting themselves in a good light, to promoting themselves. Men have most men have no issues with that at all whatsoever. So basically, when you do want to develop, when you see an opportunity, when you do great work, speak up, say it, talk about it. Do put yourself out there. It's okay to do that. It's not going to be ill perceived. Quite on the contrary, it's going to be able to show you in the light that you want to be shown under. Of course, it's always a question of intensity. If you just simply do this with no substance, you don't deliver anything, and you don't perform, and yet you're the best thing since sliced bread, there may be a bit of an issue there, but that's a whole other ball game. So speak up. Don't be afraid. Take the reins and speak up. Also, you may want to reach out. When I say reach out, I mean you are not in this alone, okay? Go reach out to other women that you trust, women in maybe other sectors, other industries that have achieved what you wanted to achieve, and talk to them about your challenges, talk to them about your wins and your losses, and the experience that you can get out of them. Reach out and don't hesitate to ask for help when help is needed. Most women think that if they do the hard work, if they do the long hours, if they produce, they will get what they want and what they need, which is rarely the case. This is why speaking up and reaching out is quite important when you want to fulfill your ambition goals, your ambition and your development goal, your growth. The other thing that you want to do is share. So you will be looking out to reach out. You will be looking out for for women mentors and coaches, but you also want to share with your environment your own experience, and more importantly, with other women that are in the same boat as you. Do share and connect and contact. This will help you in regards to building a network, building connections, meaningful connections with other women in your industry. So don't hesitate to share. It's good to be authentic. It's good to be vulnerable. It's good to be you and sharing your experience with others. Nothing wrong in that. Engage. So it's been known that when it comes to applying to roles, to open positions, men, on average, only need to qualify at 20%. So basically, even if the job descriptions is 80% not aligned to their experience profile and background, they will still apply in case it sticks. So they actually do engage. Women, on the contrary, it's over 80%. So if the profile, if the experience and the background listed in the job description is not at least 80% of aligned to who they are, they will not apply. So men have a tendency to jump on opportunities much faster than women do. So do not be fearful. Do engage, and go for it. Go for it. This one is quite hard. The imposter syndrome is felt by women across the entire workplace at a 73% intensity. So basically, 73% of women feel as an imposter at some point throughout their career. So what the imposter syndrome is a feeling of not being good enough for the role that you're occupying right now, not thinking that you are the reason for your success, thinking that, oh, it's luck, oh, it's others, oh, it's my team, oh, it's. So the imposter syndrome always defeats yourself and always makes you doubt yourself in regards to what you can accomplish and what you can achieve. This is a very, very difficult weight. And most senior women executives have that feeling and need to deal with it on a consistent basis. Um, they can't show that they have the imposter syndrome, but they feel it. And so one of the ways to disable the imposter syndrome is first to recognize that you're bad mouthing yourself, that you're bad talking to yourself, that you have this voice that is speaking to you, that is disengaging you from owning all that you are and being all that you are in this particular context, professional context. So this is the first thing. And the second thing is talking about it. So sharing the fact that you doubt yourself, that you're not sure of yourself, that you feel as though there are some other elements other than yourself that are responsible for your success. So sharing it and talking about it will actually alleviate the weight, and rationale will have a greater probability of kicking in and saying, hey, wait a second, no, I did work for the past 10 years and I did, my gosh, do my all of my experimentation and everything that I needed to do. I, through blood and sweat and tears, I'm today where I should be supposed to be at. So it is possible to disable the imposter syndrome, but quite difficult. Um, Make sure that in the context of your growth and your ambition, you, if not disable, you reduce the voice that's inside of you that consistently voids the fact that you are a valuable contributor and that you should be where you are at this present moment. Take more risks, of course. So do jump in the fire once in a while. Failure is okay. Fear of failure actually prevents you from growing and learning. So taking risks not only enables you to grow, but it also enables you to build your confidence as you go through these loops. So don't hesitate to take more risks. Get rid of detractors. So people who don't believe in you, family, friends, your environment, even your peers, people who overtly tell you that you should not be ambitious and that you should not be growing in A, B, C capacity, do not engage with them. Get rid of them. And when I say get rid, I mean do not engage at a professional level and do not talk to them about your ambitions and your goals, because you know that they will taint you and they will feed you. Actually, they will feed the imposter syndrome per se. Get rid of the people, actually identify who these people are and get rid of them in your in your chats. Do not engage with them at that particular level. Boost your confidence, of course. Confidence is key to all of these data points on how to maneuver your growth and your ambition. By any means way possible, boost your confidence. And many of the points that I provided you just now will help you boost this level of confidence. The more confident you are, the more risks you will take, the more growth you will encounter, and to eventually achieve your ambition. And last but not least, get a coach. So coaches are there to actually tackle each and every one of these particular concepts towards your growth and your career ambitions. Now, there are many, many, many other things that you can do to maneuver your growth and your ambition. But coaches are professional, certified people that are designed to actually accompany you through these moments of ambiguity, of chaos, of unclarity, if you may. So don't hesitate to reach out and get a coach to help you through these moments of uncertainty. Now, with all this being said, I do wish that you continue being the best that you can be. And I do hope that you continue engaging into the tech sector workforce. This is a fantastic opportunity to complement what is already there. different ways of seeing things, different ways of interacting, different. I'd say more complementary than different. Um, you are worth it. You are solid and you can do this. You got this. Go get him, Tiger. Thank you very much. And again, stay safe and stay healthy. As I was saying at the beginning of the talk, don't hesitate to link with me on LinkedIn. It will be my pleasure to connect with you. Take care.